You know, the other day I lost my keys. And I was sure I had put them in my pocket. I remember specifically putting them in my pocket. And I knew I couldn't be wrong because when I was growing up, Mommy always said I was the smartest boy ever. Suck it, other boys. So I knew they should be in that pocket. Where could they have gone? Then I realized I'd been Mandela'd. Oh my God, it's true. Somebody broke the space-time continuum, went back in the past just to put my keys somewhere else. Of course, eventually, I found them in my other pocket, but that's not the point. I'm the smartest boy in the world. Mommy said so. Mandela!
Today, we're going to talk about the Mandela effect. I'm going to tell you what it is, how it started, some theories around it, and what I think of it. I will tell you this. The term Mandela effect was coined back in 2009 or 2010 by a woman named Fiona Broome. Now, Fiona calls herself a paranormal consultant, and I'm not really sure what that means. Does she have a clientele of ghosts who show up at supposedly haunted houses if the investigators hire them? What would ghosts need money for? Do ghosts ever have to poop? Do ghosts ever get horny? Do ghosts ever fart? These are the questions we really want to know. All you paranormal investigators, forget about the, oh my God, I think the chair just moved by itself, and concentrate on the hard-hitting questions that people want to know. Nelson Mandela was arrested in 1962 in South Africa because, according to the government at the time, he was trying to overthrow that government. He was sentenced to a life term, but it was eventually released in 1990. He then went on to become the first black president of South Africa and was also the key factor in ending apartheid in that country. He's considered a hero by most people, rightfully so. However, many people remember him dying in prison during the 1980s. They claim to remember his funeral. They claim to remember the eulogies. They claim to remember all the details about it. So, of course, when he died at the age of 95 in 2013, they were very shocked at this revelation. Now, for a man who spent almost 29 years in prison wrongfully, went on to become a leader of a country, and ending something as horrible as apartheid, it seems as if he probably wouldn't have wanted his name attached to something like this. And yet, here we are. If you don't know about Nelson Mandela, feel free to Google him, look him up. He was a great man, and you can learn some history in the meantime. Anyway, ever since then, people have attributed all kinds of things to this Mandela effect, and we'll get into them right now. Do you remember a movie in the 90s starring Sinbad, the comedian, called Shazam? Well, apparently a lot of people do. And a lot of people claim that they've seen it multiple times and that they can almost repeat the movie line by line. But the thing is, that movie never existed. Do you remember this guy from the movie The Empire Strikes Back, part of the original Star Wars trilogy? His infamous line to to Luke Skywalker, saying, "Luke, I am your father." Do you remember that? Well, guess what, suckers? That line never existed. And who can forget Queen, the penultimate rock band? Do you remember their song, "We Are the Champions"? Do you remember how it ends? "We are the champions of the world." Do you remember that? Well, guess what? That ending is totally wrong because those words, "of the world," were never in the song. How do you feel about that now?
Hi there guys, you're probably excited for this week because I'm finally making the video that you have requested so much.
The videos I always request have to do with reason, evidence, and science, or sex with a honey badger. What are the chances of either of those?
I'm finally making the video that you have requested so much, and that is a video on the Mandela effect.
Okay. Not science, not reason, not common sense, and definitely no sex with a honey badger. All my dreams laid to waste. But we'll hear her out, I guess. Oh, my life is shit.
This reality. So that you can be on board with what we're talking about, I'm going to give you a few examples. Okay, so most people remember a painting of King Henry VIII with a turkey leg in his hand. Most people recall seeing this in history books, but literally this painting does not exist in any record. The Berenstain Bears, most people think it was spelled Bernstein. Most people remember Agatha Christie never being found after her disappearance, and yet she was. Most people remember Sinbad starring as a genie in a movie called Shazam. Apparently this movie never happened. C-3PO is remembered as being all gold when in fact he always had one silver leg. Carmen Sandiego, the cartoon character, is remembered as having a yellow trench coat long before the red one. The Fred Rogers sing-along song, right? "It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood." In fact, this is not the lyrics. The lyric is, "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood." Most people remember Martin Luther King being shot with a handgun at close range in front of a crowd. But in fact, he was shot by a sniper with a rifle while he was on the balcony of a hotel. People also collectively have different recollections of the locations of countries relative to one another. They remember movies before they're even released. They remember different dates and numbers for things. You get the picture.
Yeah, we know what you mean. Listen, our brains are not the supercomputers they've been made out to be. I mean, sure, we have memories, but our memories are very faulty. Sometimes little details get involved that don't quite mesh up with what we think they are. Now, that's not to say that we're completely morons or completely idiots, but I guess that would depend on the interpretation you have when you come across situations where you think you remember something, but it actually never happened. False memories are something that we all have. And it's not being untruthful. There are not memories that we make up as lies. There are just things we think we remember that may not have actually even happened. For example, was I actually kept in a basement as a child because my parents were so embarrassed of the way I looked that they didn't want to bring shame on the rest of the family? Yes, that actually, sadly, happened. I am a horrifically looking man. But still, some memories are not like that at all. In fact, we just make them up to fill the gaps that our brain has in what actually happened. Tell me about 1 year ago today. Just 1 year. What did you have for breakfast? Where did you have that breakfast? What were the details about that breakfast? What other people did you see? What was the weather like? What color was the building next to where you were having breakfast? You see, all those little details kind of get lost in the old brain because the brain's not meant to handle that kind of information. That doesn't mean you didn't have breakfast on this day exactly 1 year ago. It just simply means you're not going to remember all the details. So little things get lost. It's not because you went to an alternative universe. It's not because some scientists were playing around with the space-time continuum or anything like that. It just means that you're human. Unless, of course, you're not human. Maybe your brain is in a jar in a laboratory, and they're just poking it with electrodes and different needles, getting you to believe that your reality is actually real, when in fact it's not. What if you're not even here? What if you're not even human? What if you're just a brain in a jar? Well, I guess that's one idea. Not a very good idea, but that is one idea. Listen, we have false memories. We have faulty memories. We don't remember everything. So if we can't remember the way a word is spelled or a misquoted line from a movie, it doesn't really mean that much. To think that scientists, evil scientists, and of course the rich elite, them, have done this whole thing in a conspiracy to get us to come to a different reality is just not that smart. If you think about it, all the things the Mandela effect affects are nothing but small little pop culture things that don't really mean anything in the end. I mean, if you had the ability to go back in time and change things that are now in our reality that were not in our reality, wouldn't you do that to change things like war not happening that have killed countless lives? Wouldn't you go back and change Hitler not coming into power and doing all that shit that he did? Wouldn't you do that if you had that ability? If you were one of the elite, rich, and evil scientists? Shouldn't you be more focused on that than whether Queen sang a song? Or how about just changing the rules of the game of chess? Holy shit, that's confusing. I don't know, the pawns go here, the queen can do this, the knight can do this, the bishop can go fuck himself as far as I'm concerned. I don't understand any of it, and I'm not happy. Hey, listen, if you're going back in time to change things, just leave it at checkers. But anyway, remember when I mentioned at the beginning of this video some of the Mandela effects? Well, look at this one. People seem to remember this movie Sinbad with the comedian Sinbad playing a role of a genie called Shazam. As I've already mentioned, this movie does not exist. It has never existed, but there's a good reason why you might think it did. Because of this movie by Shaquille O'Neal, or starring Shaquille O'Neal, called Kazam. Does that sound familiar? Does it look familiar? Yes, it does. And basically, listen, you need to stop being racist, confusing two black entertainers, and thinking they're the same person. That's just wrong, damn it. But that might also be where you're confused. And what about when Darth Vader told Luke, "I am your father"? Well, let's take a look at the real clip just to prove to you that it's real.
No, I am your father.
Yeah, that's the way it's always been. It's never been anything else. Why do you think I'm Batman talking to you? right now. Okay, that hurts my throat, but I'm going to leave the picture of Batman up. Anyway, this is the way things have always been, but how would you feel if you didn't know anything about Star Wars and wanted to buy a t-shirt or a souvenir that said, "No, I am your father"? See, that wouldn't make any sense. So they changed it in the apparel, they changed it in the souvenirs, in the things that people buy, to just say, "Luke, I am your father." It gives more substance to the movie. It gives a better context of what that saying means. So it wasn't somebody going back and changing things in an alternate timeline. It's just the way that business works. And what about Queen? That famous line at the end of the song, we are the champions of the world. Well, they sang that part when they were live, including at Live Aid, which was one of the most viewed and most successful live performances of all time. So that is in everybody's mind. That's all it was. But it never made it into a studio album. Now, yeah, we could talk about this all day and all night and argue the back and forth, but unfortunately I have some weird porn to watch and I just don't have time for all this. But trust me when I say that your brain is not as great as you think it is. As a matter of fact, did you know you can see your nose all the time, but your brain just blocks it out? Yeah, go ahead, take a look. I'll wait. Go ahead. Yeah, you can see your nose all the time, but your brain blocks it out because it's not important enough to remember. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd really appreciate it if you did the following things. Give it a like. Even if you didn't like the content, at least do it for the sake of the beer. And be sure to hit that subscribe button. Click it right now so you don't miss any other uploads. I promise that will get better. I do not promise that I'll ever do one sober, but I do promise they'll get better as far as editing and all that good stuff goes. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will talk to you later.